All right, we're live. Welcome to another episode of the WP Crowd. Today, we have no guests, actually, only crowd members today, which is awesome. And we got a good show. So first, let's talk about what's going on. So one thing I wanted to bring up, which was brought up by someone else in the community and kind of been making its rounds, is there's a new bug with the latest Chrome 4.5 in WordPress. Sometimes it's a new feature to Chrome. It's actually a pretty cool feature, I think. It's supposed to make rendering of web pages better, but with WordPress, it messes up the menu. So I've seen a couple screenshots of it. I haven't actually encountered this problem directly myself, but I've heard a lot of complaints about it, and I think our clients are starting to mention it. So I posted a link in the chat on the WPCrowd.com with a fix, a pretty simple fix just for Chrome itself. There's also a server-side fix, so if your clients are complaining about the issue, there's a GitHub repo with a server-side fix for the whole thing, so you can try to install it on the server, and that way they don't have to deal with Chrome settings. Anything else going on this week that I missed? I know there was some HTTPS things going on. I haven't caught up. Anyone know what's going on with that?
I believe that was just trying to make sure that WordPress is HTTP2 speedy compatible, although I don't believe there was a whole lot of work. What little I read through the ticket, there wasn't a whole lot involved there. Sean might have seen more of it.
Yeah, what they wanted to do was because you're supposed to be able to move to HTTP2 without making any changes to your site, but there are maybe a dozen open tickets related to SSL issues on track right now. So they just want to make sure that those tickets get addressed, and once those are done, HTTP2 should be a seamless migration.
Cool. You know, I totally realized we didn't do introductions when we always do introductions. Man, I'm just not on it today. I woke up early again today. So
It's not even
let's just
Monday.
quickly go through introductions, starting on my left, Chris.
Chris Wigman, I'm a senior web engineer with TEDUP, living and down in Sarasota, Florida.
Cool. Kate.
Hi, I'm Kate Newbill. I'm a WordPress consultant and general all-around website person. I'm in Birmingham, Alabama.
Cool. Michelle.
Hi, I'm Michelle Butcher. I am the lead WordPress specialist at WP Security Lock, and I am in beautiful Southern Illinois. Even though it's not so beautiful today, it's raining.
All right, Sean.
Hi, I'm Sean Hooper. I'm the CTO at Actionable Books. I'm located in Ottawa, Ontario, and been working with WordPress for probably about 5 years now.
Cool. And I'm Roy. I am a developer at Disney, as well as co-founder of Art Control, which runs CodeCavalry.com. I'm in Southern California, where I really wish I had Michelle's rain, because we have no water. But it's like 150 degrees outside, so that's always nice. All right, so we talked a little bit about what's going on with the community, and this issue kind of comes up here and there in the community as we go through it. I think it's really brought up a couple months ago, and I think, Sean, you were the first one to mention this last week, kind of connecting burnout with kind of a mental health thing, because even though you may not be depressed, you may not have any like emotional anything going on, I think everyone feels burnout on some level at some point in time if they're, let's say, working at full capacity. I mean, if they're not kind of just dawdling along doing like 5 hours a week, I suppose if you're working full-time, there comes a point, whether it's work or life, you're going to feel burnout. So I thought it was a pretty cool thing to talk about. I know I felt it more than one time, and I've definitely gone on binges of not doing anything but watching Netflix because I was so burnt out. I refused to turn on my own computer. One of my companies, I had unlimited PTO, and I legitimately took 2 weeks off and did not go anywhere. I sat on my couch for 2 weeks, and I was just so burnt out that it was the best thing that I ever did for myself, because by the time a week and a half went by, I was like urging to get back to work and urging to get some code done. But yeah, that week and a half off was just the best thing ever. And I think it happens to everyone, and it's kind of, I won't say inevitable, but there's a lot of things that a lot of people go through getting to that point. So I just kind of wanted to discuss that. So I kind of wanted to start out with a more vague question, which I've been kind of dealing with this past week promoting this episode. Is burnout spelled with 2 words or 1 word?
Usually I say it with 1 word.
2?
I would have guessed 2, but
If you're in Canada, it's probably 2. If you're in the U.S., it's probably 1. Let's face it.
I've seen it spelled with 1 word.
I actually have it spelled both ways all over the place, both on Twitter and on the website, just to make sure that SEO is in there for both. But no, does anyone else want to share an experience? I mean, I just told you one of mine. I just wanted to go around and see what you guys have done. I guess let's talk about. Okay, you've gotten to that point. You're burnt out. What are some things you guys do to help remedy, kind of get to that point? Or sorry, you've gotten to burnout phase. How do you guys get out of it?
I actually think a better starting point would be how do you know when you're burnt out? What are the signs that you're burnt out?
That's a very good question. Why don't you start then, Sean? How do you know you're burnt out, or how do you know you're coming up on getting burnt out?
I think there's a couple of signs of it, at least that I've, in my own experience, found. One is when you can't focus on any task that you're working on. Maybe because there's too many, either because you have too many tasks on your plate, or that you have one task but your brain is not focusing on whatever the problem is at hand. Because you've worked too many hours, and your stress level's too high, and I think those are really my signs. Or you're having problems sleeping and you're thinking about work all the time. I think those are all signs for me that burnout is either approaching or is there.
Another thing that I've found is resentment. If it gets to the point where I am just really, really ticked off at the idea of opening my email box and seeing more emails from clients saying, I need this, or I need that, or the other thing, then that's a really good sign that I'm getting close to burnt out. And Sean's comment about sleep is another one. When I go 3 or 4 nights in a row and I can't sleep more than 3 or 4 hours, then yeah, it's crash and burn time.
Another thing is when you really just do not like your job anymore and you do not remember why you got into it in the first place. I know I went through it bad with my previous career.
Do you think that if you're at that point, because God knows I've been there a few times, if you look at my resume, where I'm just like, I can't stand this anymore. Why am I still working here? In some cases, I think I've pushed through that and I've gotten back to, all right, this is why I'm working here. I'll find really hard, but I'll try to push through and try to find the glass is half empty kind of situation and find all the reasons I wanted to take the job in the first place. But in your experience, have you ever been able to push past that at any position, or even working for a client where I really resonate with the resentment? I think that's something that a lot of people will feel, and that resentment will turn into kind of, I hate my job, or I hate this client, why am I even doing this kind of thing. One thing always kind of leads to the other, It's a slippery slope. But in your experience, Michelle, well, you said your last job, so do you feel like there's situations where someone could get past that and kind of see the light and kind of get back into why they wanted to do it in the first place?
It all depends on the reevaluation. With my previous career, I was a pre-K teacher, And it just really got to the point of, yeah, I did love working with the kids and everything, but it was a spinning wheel type job. I knew I wasn't going to get anywhere. I knew I was never going to do or be any more than what I was at that time. And after reevaluating it, I knew it was my time to step away. But on another career I had, like when I DJ'd, I got burnout on that also. But even after reevaluation, I knew why I got into it and why I loved it and why I did keep going at it. It mainly depends on your reevaluation period. If you can still see the light on why you chose it, then you can come out of it. But when you look at things and you're like, I won't use the words no hope, but there's no point in going forward, then it's time to either change jobs or change professions.
Yeah, no, I totally understand. And it's hard sometimes to see kind of that light at the end, or to kind of come back into it and push forward. Um, so now that we I guess, have kind of some solid foundation of what we feel the symptoms are, what are some things you guys do to prevent burnout, like on a regular basis? And I'm assuming everyone has their ongoing. It's not something you can just kind of do one day and then boom, you're done with burnout. I feel like for me, it's always an ongoing thing. Every day I need to spend half an hour watching Netflix, because if I don't, that means I'm probably working on something, and that's just going to inevitably make me burnt out much, much faster. So what are some things you guys do on a schedule, I should say, to help you keep away from being burnt out?
The Kindle app, or my Kindle, and the Calm app for iOS, which is a meditation app. Those things are just worth their weight in gold.
So you actually find meditation helpful?
It's something fairly new to me since I moved here, so since January. But yeah, it's actually really, it took like 2 months like the first 2 months, I was like, okay, this is just stupid. And then it just started, like, I don't know, something clicked, and it really does help.
And you just shut off everything? Like, everything's off minus, I guess, your app, but everything for the most part is just off, and you kind of just focus, tune out, I guess?
Yeah, very much so. I mean, I'm pretty good at, like, with the Kindle, too. I mean, at 8 p.m. to 8 a.m., every device I have goes into Do Not Disturb, so I pretty much try to disconnect for 12 hours a day anyway. But those two devices, between the Calm app and then the Kindle, they really help me just kind of zone out and not focus on other stuff.
How about you, Kate? Anything that you do on a regular basis that you think helps prevent you from getting burnt out?
Well, Chris made the comment of just disconnecting for a while. And with reference to his meditation, what I have an app on my phone that's called Mindfulness Bell, and it goes off at random intervals. You can set it for, half an hour, 45 minutes, whatever. And then it just is a sound like a bell on the phone. And that's my cue to stop and pay attention to what's going on right now. It's not specifically meditation, but it's, am I plugged into what I'm doing? Am I, how am I feeling about it? Is it time to stop and take a break? Because I am one of those people that I get hyper-focused on something, and I can sort of come out of a task after having sat there for 3 hours and not moved, and then I start to get up and my feet are all asleep and everything else. So Mindfulness Bell has been really helpful for me on a short-term, everyday sort of basis. That and just shutting everything down at a reasonable hour and not trying to work until 10 or 11 o'clock at night.
I find it hard sometimes to turn off as well. Sometimes I'll blame my insomnia on it. I've been trying my best to not take any sleep aids, or make sure that I go to sleep at a reasonable hour, wake up, make sure that I'm being active. I've just started going back to the gym in the mornings, and that's been helping me out a lot. I know it's only been a couple days, but so far it's been pretty good. But I've been working out at home as well for the past few weeks again. So that always really helps. And for me, one thing I do during the day, I guess while I'm coding, is I tend to block out my as I'm coding into functional blocks. So while I'll have Facebook and Twitter open pretty much all day, I tend not to look at it while I'm in a functional block of code. So like I'll set a goal of, hey, I need to get the contact form working, and I'll just work straight through till it's working. Once it's working and ready for testing, then I'll go back and I'll see what's going on Facebook, Twitter for a few minutes. Then I'll see what my next block of functionality will do. I find that during the day it actually helps a lot because if I was completely shut off, I'd code all day, sure, and I'd probably get a little more work done, but I think in the long run I'd be more burnt out and I'd get to burn out a lot faster. So in a way, my connection with social media kind of helps me with keeping my mind off of the work, even if it's in like 5-10 minute intervals during the day, just to get my mind off of what I'm working on, and then I'll come back into it kind of with a fresh mind. Also really good when you're stuck on a problem. If you're stuck on a chunk of code, if you have nothing else to look at, I find that I get annoyed very quickly. So I'll just go onto social media, and I won't even ask the question of what I'm working on, unless I'm really, really frustrated. But I'll just, hey, what's going on, see what's going on with my friends, and then come back into the code. And again, as normal, as usual for developers, that's when you're like, aha, that's what it is. I'm missing that semicolon right there. And that's what it usually is.
So it seems to me, based on a lot of these comments that we've just heard, they very much apply to people who are remote workers. This desire to work until 11 o'clock at night without shutting off, or to, not move from your computer for hours while you're working on a problem, I think are things that are less likely to happen in a typical office environment.
I'll disagree there because that's where I had it even worse.
I'm a remote part of the time, and I mean, I need in my life to be, I can be a remote worker. I find myself pretty good efficiently when I'm kind of both, a hybrid in office / at home. And I think it depends on your workload. A lot of people that are full-time, no matter where they are, tend to take on side projects, or will take on, whether it's paid or not, working on stuff for the community, whatever you're doing. And that's really where they're like, okay, let's work till 11 o'clock comes in, because you're working on not just work that you get paid for, but sometimes you're working on 10 other things that you're not getting paid for. And I find myself getting into those situations a lot, because someone's like, hey, Roy, I need some help with this plugin, or hey, Roy, I need some help with this thing. And I'm just like so excited to work on something that I'm just like, sure. And next thing you know, it's midnight, and I've worked on 100 different things, but not, let's say, my work. So I have to then make up for that the next day. I'm getting better about that, but that's definitely something I think people that work full-time, non-consulting jobs kind of get themselves into, because they're like, well, I get paid 9 to 5, so that leaves me all this extra free time. And there's kind of that misconception that it's like, okay, well, now you have all this extra free time, but you really don't have that free time. Depending on your workload, you might need to work after 5 o'clock, or you should just not work from 5, till the next day. I don't understand that concept yet of not working, but I'm sure I'll get there someday.
Another thing when it comes to burnout of actually working in an office or outside of your home is you can get in such a monotony schedule of, get up, go to work, come home if you have a family, cook dinner, do dishes, help homework, bath, bed, repeat, to where that can really cause burnout as well.
Oh yeah,
I
definitely.
can see that. Yeah. Yeah, I've recently become a remote worker, and I'm finding the flexibility in the schedule is definitely something that has been good for my mental health, to be able to do things when I am motivated to do it, more than on a fixed schedule, because that's when everyone else is doing whatever the task is.
I can agree with that. I mean, there's times when during the day I'm actually even in the office and I just can't get any work done. I can't get my mind, especially when I'm like Mondays, because Mondays are usually the back-to-back meetings days, and I'll have like a 1 hour block of no meetings, but then I'll go back into meetings. So that 1 hour is just non-efficient time at all because I can't find my brain. I can't get my brain into work mode and then out of work mode within an hour, unless I'm working on something very, very small. But then I'll make up for it at night. Again, that after 5 p.m. hour, where there's no calls coming in, there's no meetings set up, and for 4 hours I can sit there and just code in silence for the most part. And I think, then you have real life other life that comes in and kind of burns you out as well. Making sure dinner's ready, making sure the house is clean, making sure that everything's with the rest of your life is in order. And it can kind of pile up more than pretty quickly, I would say, because sometimes, you're sitting there and then, boom, you realize that you forgot to pay a bill, and now you have a late fee or something. And God, that used to happen to me all the time, and I'm so happy that they introduced instant pay. But man, when I was paying like checks on my own bills, man, I'd always forget because I just sit there working the whole night, and that's how it was. So, what do you guys do? I mean, I've touched on this a little bit, but what have you guys done when you've hit burnout? What are some things that you have done, even horrible things, not like...
The extreme side, switch jobs and switch entire careers.
Yeah, I think we've all been there, switch jobs because of burnout. What other things have you guys done because of burnt out, whether it's good or bad?
Drink. Let's be honest, drink.
Break?
Drink. I tend to drink a lot more.
Oh,
Find myself at the bar a lot more at times I'm burned out than times things are going well. That's just a simple fact of the matter.
I suspect that's probably fairly common.
I think so, but it's definitely not one of the better things you could be doing to handle it. Let's face it.
Also, kind of do more on the self-shutdown where you quit talking to friends and family as much and be more introverted.
One of the things that I do is, and I'll often do this in the middle of the week, is just wake up and it's like, okay, today is a mental health holiday. And just go away, from the office. I have an office in my home, and just get out of the house and go do something. Doesn't matter what it is, just as long as I'm out. That's a big help.
I found I try and sometimes there's a couple of things. One, just spending a day or two disconnected if you can really makes a big difference. I just went camping this weekend and checked my phone once a day just for emergencies, but other than that didn't even have my phone on me. And I just found I came back from that trip definitely feeling refreshed. So that's a big thing. If you don't have the option of getting out of the office, look at everything that's on your to-do list and find the smallest items on the list and see if you can get a couple of those out of the way so that there's a feeling of accomplishment rather than working on a third of a big task that at the end of the day you're still not done. I think saying, yes, I completed this, this, and this is very good for your mental health as well.
So one thing we've talked about, or that's been brought up, not on this show, but in the community, is how employers deal with mental health. How do you think, or how do your employers deal with burnout? I mean, have you ever told one of your employers that, hey, I'm burnt out, and how do they react to that? Do they say I don't care, or do they let you take some time off? What are some of the things you guys have dealt with as far as employers go when you're burnt out?
My typical reaction, for people who say that, get the fuck out. I mean, that's typically the response I've encountered at so many places. That's too bad. Too bad, so sad, get lost. I've seen that response so much because it's just too easy to hire people in a lot of places.
What I've seen is that a lot of the times people do not want to talk about that issue with their employer. They may talk about it with their colleagues. It'll be the around the water cooler, bitching of, oh, I'm so burnt out. But you would never say that to your manager. And I think that in itself is a problem, that it's not talked about openly.
I mean, it
Totally
should,
agree.
obviously. Yeah, Kate, do you want to say something?
Yeah, I was just going to say that I totally agree with Sean. It's been close to 20 years since I have worked in an office, but I would never. I can't think of a single employer that I've ever had that I would feel comfortable going to and saying I'm burnt out.
Well, let's just say your employer is your client, because they're the one that's, they're ultimately paying you. If
Right.
your client needs something done, have you ever said, look, I'm not gonna get to this today, I'm burnt out? Have you ever been honest with a client and said, look, I'm just too burnt out today, I will get back to you tomorrow, I'll get back to you next week?
No, but that's one of the things I was thinking about earlier in response to how do you deal with burnout is that I have found that a lot of times I get burned out when I have too many things on my plate and all of them have the same sense of urgency. I've got 5 people who all want this thing done today. And at that point, what I have to do is just say, look, I've got 5 projects going, and I'm scheduling yours for Wednesday. And just be really, really honest with people that I've got too many things going, that I can't get it all done, and that gets a lot of the pressure off me. That's something that I've found helpful in dealing with clients. The other option, obviously, is not to take on too many jobs, but that doesn't always happen either.
Gotta pay the
Well,
bills
yeah,
somehow.
sometimes you need just to pay your bills, and that's kind of the unfortunate side of contracting full-time.
Right.
And I've definitely been there too, where it's just I'm burnt out from taking on 7 clients so I can pay my rent, but now I have 7 clients' demands on me every single day.
Right.
That's good. I think we've touched on everything. I know that we've talked about kind of preventing it, and everyone said, okay, well, you'll take a mental health day, and Sean's gone away for a weekend, but how long do you guys think it takes? And I know every person's probably different, but for me, it took me about a week and a half to get out of a full. I was completely burnt out. How long do you think there's a time frame for, if you're going to set aside some time to just be like, okay, I'm burnt out, let me set aside this time. How long is good enough? Is a day always going to be good enough? Is it a weekend? Is it a week?
8
How
years
long
later, I still have no desire at all to go back to aviation.
Well,
But that's all. I mean, it depends on the person and the situation. Sometimes a day is good. Sometimes 15 minutes is good enough to just pull you back into the zone.
And it depends on how far you let yourself go into the burnout before you try to come out of it.
I would
true.
agree with Michelle. The deeper you get into it, the longer it takes to get back out.
And I think, if it's something like, okay, I'm burnt out from my work. I know, Chris, you were in aviation before, and that's probably one of the, well, there's many professions that require more than a developer does, but there's definitely a lot of long hours for you as a pilot. So, a burnout phase might give you that time to just think about what you really want to be doing with your life, and if that's not what you want to be doing, then it's time to make a change, and that's probably the best time to think about it. But yeah, I think it depends. As for me, I mean, that week and a half, I think I just kind of let myself go too far, and that was I was working for an agency. There was a whole bunch of stuff going on, and I think ultimately it comes down to you kind of have to have one of those to learn, okay, this should be like an everyday thing or an every week kind of thing that you need to take care of as you go. It shouldn't be a let me take care of this after it happens. It should always be preventative medicine kind of thing, and you should always be doing stuff along the way every single week, if not every day, to help you, ultimately prevent a big burnout from happening.
Take weekends off.
take weekends off. Yeah.
Yeah.
We just had a Labor Day weekend here, so I hope everyone had a good 3-day weekend. Um, I actually put some hours in myself, but that's completely fine. I was okay with that. I think yeah, it's about if you're not going to take the weekend off, be okay with it and be happy about it. But ultimately, everyone ends up getting burnt out at some point, and just understanding and realizing that I think is key. With any mental illness or a situation that's going on with your own psychology, just realize that you need to understand what you're going through, and you need to take care of yourself before anything else, because your work's just going to suffer if you don't take care of it. If you just sit there and you let yourself just get more and more burnt out, you're just not going to get any work done. Eventually your work's gonna suffer, and you might lose that job that you're in now, versus saying, hey, I'm burnt out, let me take a day or a weekend off, and that might just be all you need. Cool. Well, that's it for today. Any closing remarks from you guys?
Yeah, I would just like to add, I think, having talked to a lot of people in this community, the topic of burnout is widespread. I think everyone feels it to a certain extent. And if you are, I think the most important thing is talk to someone about it. You're not alone in it. Ask for help, ask for advice. It's not just you. So that would be my closing advice.
Ask for others' experiences. Just knowing that other people are going through it is a big help.
Yeah, I think everyone goes through it, and in any community, not just WordPress, but yeah, just reach out if you're feeling whatever, if you're feeling kind of icky or you're feeling burnt out, just reach out. There's probably gonna be 100 people to help you out and get you through whatever it is you're going through. Somber note, but hopefully you guys join us next week for another awesome WP crowd. If you have any questions, feel free to leave them in the comments on our webpage, www.thewpcrowd.com. Thank you.